I am that man, your man, the illustrious tour guide, Cole Johnson. And on this episode, we're, of course, going to touch on LeBron James breaking the all-time prolific NBA scoring record for a career. We're going to, of course, touch on the Super Bowl in the way that I feel we need to touch on it, and the way I think people have failed to touch on it. And we're going to talk about some other things. Of course, we're going to award the DOLT of the week. And we're actually going to eschew the Upon Further Review segment for this week. We are going to go in and have an email to be sent. But let's dispense of the particular, let right headlong into it. Headlines, please. So we will, of course, begin with the biggest event of any sports calendar, Super Bowl 57. Of course, the kickoff is at 6:30 p.m. on the Eastern Coast, 3:30 on the West, 4:30 in the desert. That's where it's going to be hosted in Glendale, Arizona, Sunday, February 12th. The teams, of course, are going to be the Eagles in the NFC, the Chiefs, the AFC. That's just for the particulars for those who are unaware of the event, the teams is going to play, and when it's going to be, and it's going to air on Fox. So you now have Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Of course, you're going to hear, and you've heard ad nauseum, the trope there. I'm not going to bring it up here. But there's other things that are not being brought up, like, let me see. Andy Reid. He used to coach the Eagles, took them to the Super Bowl once. He now coaches the Chiefs. He has taken to the Chiefs to the Super Bowl 3 times. Of course, Sunday is his 3rd time. He's won 1 and lost 1 with the Chiefs. So he has ties to both franchises. Of course, you also have the Kelsey brothers. Jason, the center for the Eagles. Travis, the tight end for the Chiefs. And they're only separated by 23 months in age. And there was a petition for their mother to be representing the coin flip for the game. And she actually does have a jersey where it's part Eagles, part Chiefs. And both the mother and father of the Kelsey brothers are awesome. So you have those tropes. You have possibly some hurt feelings in Nick Sirianni not being kept on an Andy Reid staff. So I mean, there's many things, and then of course there is the high ankle sprain by one Mahomes, who he suffered it 3 weeks. Well, it will be by the time they play the game 3 weeks ago against the Jaguars. He played on it, of course, in the AFC Championship game. He played on it the rest of the way in the divisional round. So all of these are in play, and what is it going to be result? Well, the Eagles are favored by 1.5 points. We should see if that will hold and stand. Again, that game starts Sunday. Now to the big story of the day, and that is LeBron James becoming the all-time most prolific scorer in NBA history. But I'm going to touch on that in the next segment. And I'm going to touch on it in my own way in the next segment. Here, I'm going to touch on who could possibly surpass him. Now, it is quite possible that LeBron could get to 40,000 points in his career. Right now, he stands at present 38,390 points. That's where he is now. 3 points clear of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I'll touch a little bit more on that later. Now, you do have probably the person who is most capable of doing at the moment in Kevin Durant. He's inching closer to 27,000 points. He averages more points in a career than LeBron does. That's the plus on it. The minus, though, is Durant has suffered injury after injury after injury after injury ever since 2019. And more than likely, his career might be curtailed and cut short before he could actually get a chance to break the record. So he does average the points necessary to do it. I don't think he'll put enough time on the court to do it. Then you have James Harden with 24,000. Now, Mr. Step Back Travel, Mr. Step Back Three, his offensive prolific nature really started late. So I don't think he really will have a shot at it because he's right now 33. And so he would have to stay to about 40 to average 2,000 points a year until 40. And even then, I don't think he will catch LeBron. Then you have Stephen Curry, who is at 22,000 points. Now, he probably, if he were to stay healthy and become even more of a lights out shooter from three than he already is, and he's the best shooter in the history of the game, in my personal opinion, it still might be just a little bit too much for him. Now, currently he's 34. He will be 35, if I'm not mistaken, next month. And so that's going to be tough. Now, he does have the game where he could stay long enough to actually do that because shooting does not ever go out of style. So Steph doesn't have the most athletic game, but he didn't need that. So he can shoot the ball, so that won't be a problem. The problem with him is longevity. I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm saying that's going to be an issue considering that if he's going to stay there because it's all about breaking that record, it's not going to happen. Then there's Luka Doncic. Now, right now, he is not even at 10,000 points, but that's okay. That's all right. He's still young. I mean, he's 23, 24, I believe now. So, he hasn't reached 10,000 yet, but he will next year. And so he might. It's possible. I think it's highly unlikely, though. He has the ability, he has the game, and his game is similar to LeBron in as much as he loves to control the action with the ball. And he could do a whole bunch of things on offense. Now, Luke is a little more skilled, though, than LeBron in the area of how he can make that happen. It's going to be tough for him, though, to do it. But I think he has an outside shot of doing so. So, in my opinion, I think if it's going to be someone else who's going to break the record, it's going to be someone that we don't know yet. Someone that I don't think exists. And we might not be around to see it. So, unfortunately, and I know this is going to be heartbreaking for many, and probably happy for others, this is going to stay around for a good while. It just is. It's unfortunate, but hey, when you do play 20, and LeBron's probably going to play even more than 20 years, that's one of the fruits of what you do. Longevity does have its privileges. Now, we're at the trade deadline period. And the big news that basically started the NBA before LeBron breaking the all-time career points mark is Kyrie Irving, the now former Net, is now a current Maverick. Now, the trade deadline is Friday. The Nets didn't want to basically sit on the All-Star after he made the ridiculous demand of, well, you trade me or I will sit out the rest of the year. And so there was 4 suitors. There were the Clippers, the Suns, the Mavericks, where he ended up being, and the Lakers. One of the things that I liked about this was the owner of the Nets, Joe Tsai. He basically commanded his troops the following edict. Quote, no matter what deal you pull out, you do not deal Kyrie Irving to the Lakers. Close quote. Now, I love that personally. I do. Now, the deals that you keep hearing are Russell Westbrook being dealed to ... question mark. And of course, there's going to be other attention-seeking teams like the Suns gathering steam to want to get Kevin Durant, to play for them for the second time in a calendar year. So we have it till Friday, and really, it's been quiet. Here it is, 2 days before. It's been quiet, other than the Nets moving Kyrie to Dallas in exchange for Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, and a couple draft picks. It's just been really, really, really quiet. So we shall see what happens. We might not see much in the way of moving. Who knows? Back to the gridiron and sort of splitting hairs, gridiron and the diamond. So you have Uber Eagles fan Mike Trout, who makes no bones about the fact that he is an Eagles fan, and he should be, because he grew up in I forget the city, but I know it is near Philly. I want to say it's Vineland, New Jersey. So he grew up near the Philly area, and of course he was repping in Lincoln Financial Field the Eagles. He went to the NFC Championship game on Sunday, and last Sunday, I'm sorry, and he saw, of course, the 31-7 victory over the 49ers in that game. But what is so funny about this, though, is people are getting ham on Trout and saying that he represents the Eagles, yet he is not doing much in the way of the Angels. Oh, man. So they went on to say, basically, quote, "It crushes me, man. I want the experience of the playoff atmosphere. I want to get to experience a little taste of it, and I did back in 2014, but it's been a while. And I can't imagine what the players are going through, and I think that everybody that competes in sports wants that feeling." Close quote. Well, of course they do, man. You know that. You've played professional sports long enough, so that's not even an issue. For you now, it's simply about just having your team build around you. I mean, it's you, Shohei Ohtani, and question mark. You just have to get the team to build more around you and go from there. And hopefully you can compete in the AL West. Who knows? I hope you care, because if you do, you get a lot of these internet trolls to stop commenting on, well, he's rubbing the Eagles, but he's not doing jack on the Angels. Idiots. There is a bar, speaking of Philadelphia, that features nothing but Chiefs memorabilia, nothing but Chiefs fans, nothing but Chiefs things. The Big Charlie Saloon. It is the bar that represents all things Kansas City Chiefs in Philadelphia. That bar will be closed. Yes. It will be closed for Sunday. Now, you would think that this would be a non-starter. What do you mean? Here's a bar that's dedicated to the team. The team is actually playing in the biggest game of the year, and the bar is going to be closed? Well, for the owner, Paul Stako, his reason was twofold. He said that for marquee events such as the Super Bowl, Big Charlie's, they set up television screens and grills and seating outside. Now, while the Chiefs are playing the Eagles, now you have the hometown Eagles playing in the Super Bowl here. Lincoln Financial Field is less than 2 miles from the bar, so he wanted to keep everybody indoors. And of course, Philly is not the warmest of places in the middle of February. He says also reservations were in the hundreds for the Super Bowl, far above indoor capacity. And so he found himself turning away regulars, and that didn't sit right with him. He also realized that he had no way to ensure the safety of his customers. Eagles fans, they're the most polite of individuals, especially in the city of brotherly love. But he says not that everybody in the neighborhood would take issue with Chiefs fan. But Big Charlie's making appearances in media outlets and local and national headlines ahead of Super Bowl 57. He couldn't guarantee that you have idiots that would want to do damage to anybody who was wearing Chiefs gear in Philadelphia. So it's unfortunate that they're going to close up shop for the Super Bowl, but you really have to give the owner of Big Charlie's credit. He's actually thinking of his patrons. He's thinking of his fans, and thinking of his customers. And I'm glad he is thinking that way. And then you have Shannon Sharpe. Well, turns out there was an event that happened with the Pacers and the Grizzlies where there was a team that was, I guess you could say, the entourage of Ja Morant. They wanted to, I guess, intimidate the Pacers for some reason. I have no idea why. But
we interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special report from ColeSportz.
The ColeSportz News Desk. Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Irvin is now out as NFL Network's analyst. Now, why is he? Well, he is out of doing anything Super Bowl 57 in Arizona and for the foreseeable future because he was sent home following a woman's complaint about his conduct on Sunday. Now, the NFL Network media confirmed that he won't be a part of the festivities for Super Bowl week. They didn't discuss anything further, but Michael, on his behalf, told the Dallas Morning News that he and the woman he shook hands with, that just simply was no physical contact other than that. And he went onward to talk about the incident in question when he said the following. Quote, honestly, I'm a bit baffled with it all. This all happened in a 45-second conversation in the lobby. When I got back after going out, I came into the lobby. I talked to somebody, and I talked to this girl. I don't know her, and I talked to her for about 45 seconds. We shook hands, then I left. That's all I know. Close quote. Well, Mr. Irvin, I don't think that's all you know now, because obviously the allegations are so severe that the place that you actually were working decided to say, we got to distance ourselves from it and from you. There'll be more on this story, of course, as it develops, but we hope that this is basically a quiet and wolf situation, meaning that nobody was harmed. But if so, if someone was harmed, Mike, you know better than that.
This has been a special report from ColeSportz. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, already in progress.
Now to the Fanatic Feedback Zone to the VIP Feedback Zone we go to, and the partner du jour, Snowman, he says, "Oh yeah, let's go, ColeSportz with a Z." And he made another comment that I will put forth in the next segment. Victor Locke, love you, brother. He says, "Ladies, sorry, let me do this the best way possible." Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the classiest sports show on the planet, ColeSportz with a Z. And now here's the star of ColeSportz, Cole Johnson. Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Vicala, as Soulman said. Victor says, "Oh, a news story popped up about Michael Irvin being pulled from Super Bowl coverage." Yeah, that happened about an hour ago. So, but yeah, more on it as the details develop, because struck me as odd. When we come back, we will, of course, peel back the layer of LeBron James being now the most prolific scorer in NBA history. We will touch on it in only the way ColeSportz can right after this.
Steph Curry, Tim Anderson, Jordan Alvarez, and it's caught. Deebo Samuel with the catch.
Michael Jordan can sense it.
The Fro just got the king.
BS3 Network.
The hottest of hot takes. The coldest of cold hard facts. This is Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. Weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure. This is a BS3 Network presentation. Politics.
They'll write the law, but they'll enforce it differently. Is that going to apply both ways?
Religion.
God never said that we can't reason together. Matter of fact, he said, let us sit and reason together.
Relationship.
I believe that everybody wants and needs somebody.
From a man's perspective.
They say, girls, if I put some polish on that and get him to buy some different clothes, girl, he could be a winner chicken dinner.
Join the thought engineer.
There's nothing wrong with me developing my piece and you developing your piece, but understand the goal is to come together.
And comedian John Yogi.
Negro, I don't need you putting on no chapstick up there in the pulpit. You do that over there in your chair.
Get ready for
Man Talk Monday. Woo!
Live every Monday at 7 p.m. Central.
Welcome back, Cole Johnson, ColeSportz, and oh man, Bronsexuals have gone absolutely bonkers. Oh my gosh! Back to the VIP feedback zone we go. Snowman says, "Long live the king, Michael Jeffrey Jordan," but he said, correction. Long live the king. Captain Skyhook and his airness. Period. Put a little stank on it, my friend. All right, so last night, and it was last night, in Los Angeles at Crypto.com Arena, LeBron James, with about a little under 11 seconds to go in the third quarter, hit a turnaround jumper to put the game between the Lakers and the visiting Thunder to 104-99 Thunder, but the action stopped. Why did it stop? It stopped because Mr. James, with that 35th and 36th point, became the most prolific scorer in NBA history. Not the greatest scorer of all time, not the best scorer of all time, the most prolific. Because there's a difference between somebody being the most prolific at something and someone being the best at it. But of course, we've been hearing Bronsexuals saying this is proof that this is the greatest player of all time because he now owns the biggest record known to man. Well, you're about to be humbled. Email Bronsexuals. CC, modern NBA fan. BCC, a smart NBA fan. Subject of email, LeBron is not the GOAT. Body of email. $38,390 points. That's where we stand today with LeBron James. 38,390 points. Is there another man who has scored more points than LeBron James in the history of the NBA as of right now?
No!
Okay, that's fair. Now, that's a wonderful achievement, but not one that makes you say that he's the best ever, because there's many things that he's done which will make you say opposite. You know, like, oh, I don't know. How about that? I can pick between any big time player. I can pick between LeBron and Larry Bird, LeBron and Magic Johnson, LeBron and Kobe Bryant, LeBron and Michael Jordan, who each of them averaged 80% or better from the free throw line, And Mr. James, his best season was 78%. I could say, I don't know. If we were to do the endless comparison and the mind-numbing comparison of Jordan and LeBron, I mean, I can think of two things that Jordan has done. Well, Jordan has done that LeBron has not, and not mention rings. LeBron is still in search of his first Defensive Player of the Year award. And he's also in search of his first slam dunk championship, of which with Michael Jordan with the slam dunk competition, he has 2 of those trophies. So there's many things that make you say, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that he is the greatest of all time. Now, here's something that people will now say too. Now, the All-Star game is in the rearview mirror. In fact, not rearview, I'm sorry. It's in the driver's mirror. It's in the driver's side mirror. It's in the front. It's right there. It'll be the following Sunday. And Mr. James has qualified for his 19th All-Star game, which ties him with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And no man has made 19 All-Star appearances other than those two. Well, as of now, other than Kareem. As of Monday, it will be other than Kareem and LeBron. What I find interesting and I find hilarious is I've heard many a Bronsexual go on to say, quote, now LeBron James, he's past Kareem. He is the greatest scorer of all time. Close quote.
Come on!
The greatest scorer of all time.
You for real?
The greatest scorer of all time.
You've got to be joking me.
The greatest scorer of all time. No. You're not going to get away with this hypocrisy, Bronsexuals. You did not label Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the greatest scorer of all time. You didn't do it before you sensed that LeBron was going to break this record, and you started to hype this thing up before he passed Karl Malone, which is second on the list, and for surely you did not say the same thing about Karl Malone. So if you didn't say about Karl Malone, who now is third and was second for many decades before LeBron passed him, if you didn't say that he's one of the best offensive players in the game, and you didn't say Kareem is the greatest scorer of all time when he had the most points scored until yesterday, then you cannot from your mouth say that LeBron James is the greatest scorer of all time. You didn't say that about Kareem. You can't say that about LeBron. And you know what? It would be false for both of them. And that's not hate because I like somebody else on the list. It's fact. And why is it fact? Yeah, you scored that many points, and that is an achievement because longevity is something that should be awarded. No question. But look at the points per game. Now, Kareem averaged around 25 points per game. That's lofty for any NBA player to average that much for a 20-year span, 21-year span for him. LeBron has averaged about 26 to 27. Again, lofty. It's wonderful. But the greatest scorers in the history of the game still remain to this day Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan. Now, why am I saying these two names? No, not because I cape for Wilt and I cape for Michael. I don't cape for either guy. What I'm saying is those two who have played 15 or more years are the only two in NBA history who averaged over 30 points per game for an entire career. Now, that is a score. When you know that you can pin in Wilt's name or Jordan's name, and every game they're guaranteed to score at least 30 points a game, that's a score. Those are the two best scorers that's ever existed in the 76-year history of the game. And I know that sticks in the craw of you, Bronsexuals, because I know you want to say to me right now, and
you for real.
And but it's that thinking in large that makes you eat, taste, take in, digest, hug, and be at one with an and there's one fact to me that will always, ALWAYS, always preclude LeBron James from being the greatest player in National Basketball Association history. And that is on June 12th, 2011, his GOAT candidacy died. And why did it die? Because for the fourth consecutive finals game in the fourth quarter, he barely scored. And I don't mean he scored 6 or 7. I mean, he barely scored 2 or 3 points in the last 4 consecutive finals game in the 2011 NBA Finals series between the Heat and the Mavericks. Oh, and there was another thing. I could say that LeBron got outplayed by Dirk Nowitzki. That's very easy to point out. But that's not why I say that I stamp LeBron is never coming close to being the greatest player of all time. I say it because Mr. James, who averaged 17.5 points in that series, got outplayed by Jason Terry, who averaged 17.8 points in that series. Oh, by the way, Jason Terry, yeah, he was the Maverick six man.
You for real?
Yes, Teddy, I am for real. I'm for real as that. I'm for real as that perm. Now, I just don't get why you all are so adamant about thinking that he is the best of all time because he has that stat and he has over 10,000 boards in a career. He has over 10,000 assists in a career. And he has all these ridiculous other stats that you want to put up in our face and say, can you name your best to ever do that? Well, probably not in most of those stats, but you know something? Accomplishments are great. Greatness is measured by what you do at the highest level on a continuous basis. And if in 10 of those moments, your best of all time only ended up with 4 where he came out being the best, that means your greatest of all time caught 6. Meanwhile, the person you have compared yourself to in terms of, well, he's not as great, he only has a shot, in Kareem, he also went to 10 finals. He won 6 of them. So even he is even now greater than LeBron. And it's not even, to me, it's not even a debate. And it's not even about points. It's about impact on the floor. And the Captain Skyhook, he had more impact on the floor than LeBron has ever had. Now, the impact LeBron has had is off of it. But on the court, no. Not on your life. No. Mm-mm. He eats too many L's, and that's just fact. That's just absolute fact. To the VIP zone we go. Victor says, yes, the most prolific scorer is an extremely soft era. SAWFT. The owner, the manipulator, the operator of the BS3 network, Ben Sutter III, says, ColeSportz. He also says, MJ will always be the GOAT to me. The same is true with myself. And Victor says, thank you, Billy K. It was from the Iconics bit that I played a little earlier. And Snowman says, Kobe to LeBron. SAWFT. SWAT. Bottom lining it. I can go on and on about why LeBron James is not the best player that's ever suited up to play a play on the basketball court. And you probably gonna say, well, it don't matter. It's a get off my lawn, old man take. No, it's not. I have these and I have this. I have eyes and a memory. And I've seen LeBron play for 20 years, but I've seen others play 20 years before him. Actually, longer than 20 years before that. And I've seen many a great player. And I've seen a few of them that played better than LeBron James. Just because you only have this short breadth of life and this short window of time, it does not mean that what you believe is right. And I'm not saying what I believe is right. What I'm saying is I have more knowledge of the sport because I've seen more of it. LeBron James, the greatest athlete in all of the NBA's history. But just being the greatest athlete does not mean that you're the best to ever do it. And still to this day, he is not. Cole Johnson, ColeSportz, ColeSportz with the Z at gmail.com.
You're listening to the classiest sports show on the planet. ColeSportz! From the vault, a look back at a key moment in sports history.
February 8th, 1996. The Cleveland Browns, only 1 month before, was no longer the Browns, as the owner at that time, Art Modell, moved the club from the shores of Lake Erie to Baltimore. The Browns officials held an outdoor press conference only a few hundred feet away from Camden Yards, signifying the landmark move. Baltimore themselves, though, suffered a similar fate as Cleveland, because the Colts drove out in the darkness of night and a spring snowstorm back in 1984 to make their way to Indianapolis. Baltimore was on the wrong end of an NFL franchise leaving the city. Now they were on the right end of receiving one. Cleveland fought hard to keep the Browns, as they were a mainstay of the area for almost 50 years at that time. However, having no new stadium deal in place, that forced Modell's hand, as his thought, in pulling the trigger to move the team. Now, the organization could move to Baltimore, but the history, uniforms, memorabilia, and identity would have to remain in Northeastern Ohio. Along with that, they received the promise from the NFL that a new team would move to Cleveland, or an expansion team would be created there, and the new stadium would be built. That promise was fulfilled before the 1999 NFL season. Art Modell flew the coop and renamed themselves the Ravens, as the Cleveland Browns is promised a Browns reboot on this date in 1996.
From the vault, brought to you by ColeSportz. This is a journey into crime. a podcast journey that tells the stories of those long forgotten or those easy to remember. We go on a journey that reveals mystery, intrigue, and offers more twists and turns than a country highway. We have looked over cases, we've combed over evidence and testimony, yet we still are left with no answers. Sometimes, in order to get a deeper understanding of something, you must return to view. Now available for download for subscribers only. Each episode premieres only on the USA Today Network. Join now for just $1 to receive premium content like Return to View. That's $1 to become a subscriber and a Return to View loyal listener. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street y'all done had problems, maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to ColeSportz. Cole Johnson here. And we're not going to waste any more time. Here is your next DOLT of the Week. The winner of this episode's DOLT of the Week is I was going to go one area, but I'm going to switch it. This winner is Kyrie Irving. And why, you may ask? I'm so glad the question is posed. You see, he is the winner of this award because he decided to be Kyrie. Now, before I get further along, let me say, yes, I know that Kyrie aspires to have an intelligent mind. I know Kyrie has a wonderful heart. He's giving. He's philanthropic. I know he's given to so many different charities and given to so many different people outside of charities. He's given of his own to people. So I know that he has a wonderful heart. I know he's a great spirit. I understand that he's a conscientious human being. I understand all of that. But the man has a problem reporting to work. And it's something that my father told me when I was young. Forget as a grown man and forget as a teenager. When I was young, I mean, I was like 7, 8, 9. My father imparted upon me the work ethic. And he said that the one thing that you cannot do is shirk your responsibility on the job. Because, and I heard this from him before anybody else, quote, son, your best ability is your availability. Close quote. So imagine my surprise after hearing Kyrie being quiet and he's showing that he's being a leader on the Nets and he's trying to steady the ship when Kevin Durant was out with an injury, and he has really done nothing but be quiet all throughout this year. Well, that's for the exception of the Hebrews, the Negroes co-signing on Twitter and Instagram. All of that seemed to be good, but I just felt the it's always something energy with him. You know, like 2017, he wanted out of Cleveland and got his way out of Cleveland because he didn't want to be second banana to the leader of the Banana Boat crew. He wanted to be the top banana. So he got his chance to be the top banana in Boston, where he was leading the team, seemed to be okay, I guess. He goes out with an injury, and the team finds out that they are far better without him than with him, but they didn't want to believe it. And then the very next year, and that was 2018, and then 2019, he proved that, his presence is a little bit of a setback for the squad that has Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart on it. They're young, they're a bit impressionable, and you can't offset it with just Al Horford, who's the veteran on the squad. Now, let me back up just a tad. So they had a disastrous conference semifinals matchup with the Bucks, where they won the first game and then got gentlemen swept out of it. 7 months prior, he's sitting in TD Garden Arena with then general manager and Danny Ainge and the current general manager, but then head coach Brad Stevens. And the question was posed: does he want to stay in Boston? He said, "quote I'm willing to stay in Boston for as long as you have me." Close quote. Well, as long as you would have him turned out to be 9 months, because July of 2019, he teams up with DeAndre Jordan and Kevin Durant to call Brooklyn home. Now, I will say 2020 was his quietest year because he missed most of that year with injury. Then we get to 2021. Now, we'll go to the end of 2020 real fast. So I don't know if he's this now, but he definitely was. He was the vice president of the labor union, the Players Association. He balked at the bubble championships, but he got outvoted. He balked at the short off season from 2020 to 2021. He got outvoted. That's okay. I don't mind that. That's just difference of opinion. So they start the season. 2 weeks into the season, which has started December 2020, he decides to go ghost. He doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't tell the then head coach, Steve Nash. He doesn't tell Steve Marks, the general manager. He doesn't tell Joe Tsai anything, the owner of the team. Don't tell anybody anything. He just vanishes. And then you don't hear anything from him until about mid-January, where he's partying up and down with his sister at her birthday party. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't celebrate even during the season with your family. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you shouldn't shirk your responsibility, which he did there. But when he was pressed as to why he decided to go ghost and went AWOL, he said, quote, "It was because my heart was torn out by the U.S. Capitol insurrection on January 6th. I was traumatized. Oh my gosh." Close quote. Vince, you do it better than me.
Come on!
You were not traumatized, man. You just wanted to take a break. And then we get to 2022, where, yes, he had a stance, and I understand the stance. I fully do. you shouldn't be forced to take a vaccine. I get that. However, you were part of a unit, and that unit went this way. You, Mr. Irving, went the opposite way because you wanted to be contrarian as always. And so I don't fault you for the decision you make. I fault you for sticking up the team as you constantly do, and as you did the 2 teams prior, and as you did with this one, who now is your former team, because we get to this year where the Hebrews, the Negro thing, I could care less. I know you're not anti-Semitic. I know that. But what I also know is I work for a national conglomerate. I know that if I were to co-sign on something that the national conglomerate would think that is a little controversial and doesn't really stand to their moral understanding of things, that I would probably be reprimanded, if not got a pink slip for sending that stuff out, right? Yeah. I think many a fan understands that many of these players are under that same type of scrutiny too. That yes, you may think that they can live, move, and have their being, but it's like what Diddy said in Bad Boy for Life. Don't worry if I write rhymes, I write checks. Well, many of these players have 30 of these owners who sign their checks. And if they believe that is conduct unbecoming of what we believe in our organization, they got to step to that beat. I don't care who you are. Kyrie Irving included. So that, all notwithstanding, when he understood during the offseason and then later on during the season that teams just simply were not going to pony up the money because they realized that he's a flake. Again, not saying this about his character. I'm saying this simply about his ability to be a player on the court. His ability to be a team player. Flake. Owners are like, we ain't touching him. He wants to have these contracts that we aren't going to sign him to. Forget that. Forget him $150 million a year. Not yet. We want to see if he's worth it. And we're not talking about with him dribbling through his legs and having a great first step and being a wizard with the basketball in terms of dribbles. We're not talking about that. We're talking about if he can stay out of headlines on TV or on the newspaper stand. Well, the answer to that question was no, because this past week he said, quote, okay, New Jersey, Brooklyn Nets, you trade me or I sit out the rest of this season. Close quote. People said that there's something that's afoul with the Nets organization. I'm not going to say that that's wrong. All I'm going to say is I could see it. But true, yes. However, again, you're beholden to the franchise. You can say to me, well, that's not fair. That's not right. Well, guess what? There is a labor union who can argue that it isn't, but they haven't. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an issue. Because what the owners are saying is, well, you got to do this. And if the player is going to be stubborn enough to just buck the system, what's the point? So I figured Mr. Sy, which I understand where Joe was coming from, he's like, look, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of your act. I'm sick of everything that you're about. You may be a wonderful man. You may be a great, upstanding, outstanding citizen, but you simply are toxic for my bottom line. You need to go. But I loved the edict, and I also loved the condition, because Mr. Sy said, quote, trade him anywhere but the Lakers. Close quote. You know, because there was talk about him wanting to reunite with LeBron James. And of course, last year he said, I see the error in my ways, Bron, I'm sorry. Bron, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was a brat when I was younger. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was saying, but I understand now that I've been out of this cold, hard world. Oh my gosh, you was shielding me from a lot of stuff. Oh, I was being an absolute pill to you. Oh my gosh. Get out of here. Mr. Irving, you might be able to you might be able to get the contract you want. You might be able to be rich beyond recognition even after this year. And money may be or may not be something that's important to you, but what should be important to you is your reputation. Because when you sign your name on a dotted line, you're basically saying that to this team, you have my word that I'm going to represent this organization to the best of my ability and then some. And then when you pull crap like you did in Cleveland and wanting to get out, you pull crap in Boston and basically feeling as though that you weren't being embraced as the number one superstar in the team when, truth be told, they really didn't need you at all. When you pulled all sorts of crap with the Nets, when you had full autonomy as to what to do, that's problematic to any owner that wants to have your services. Now, I somewhat think you won't understand this until you become an owner. And then when you do, that's when you will understand, oh my gosh, man. If I wanted to deal with that ridiculousness, I'll put myself out there. And it might have to take that for you to realize how stupid you're being and how stupid you're acting. The act is getting old. The act is tired. The act needs to go. Now, I'm not saying you need to go. I'm saying your act does because it's getting tiresome. This is now the third team you have been booted out of in the last 7 years. Hopefully, it will not be a fourth. It more than likely will be a fourth that you'll leave. But hopefully you will not grate the nerves of Mark Cuban as you have Josiah before, the Celtics organization before that, and the Cavs organization and the like before that. You might be Uncle Drew, but to me, sir, you keep proving yourself to be Uncle AWOL. To the ColeSportz VIP zone as we go. Snowman says, thank you to the classiest sports show on the planet. ColeSportz. Real recognizes real. Greatness recognizes and acknowledges greatness. Exactly. And my man Snowman says, preach. He says, he broke his contract. But no other sports outlet except us, the real ones, will call it out. Exactly. He says, take a lesson, LeBron, Kyrie, Ben, Harden, Joel. The lesson to learn is that you don't really control your narrative truly because you sign a contract to have others do it for you. And until you own the team, you got to do what the team wants. And if the team wants you to go a certain way, you got to go that certain way. And if you don't, well, then you're going to cause conflict that you shouldn't with the organization. When we come back, I'm going to go in, but it's going to be for a good reason. Back in 2 and 2.
This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and say face.
What brings a smile to my face is
The one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations. Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready. We ready. We ready for y'all. We ready. We ready.
The Lunch Break with AJ, powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at noon Central.
Coming to the home stretch of ColeSportz. I am Cole Johnson, and tune in next week as we talk about the aftermath of Super Bowl 57. We'll get you geared up and ready for the All-Star weekend of the NBA variety, and we may touch on a couple of things. And I think I might have to, upon further review, talk about concussions as we return upon further review. Because I think it's an issue we need to talk about, and it's getting more and more serious due to people like Tua Tagovailoa. But we're not done with this episode because we've talked about many scenarios with the Super Bowl. You know, the youngest quarterbacks in combined age to start in the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl with 2 black quarterbacks starting. All these other wonderful, and then you have the wonderful tropes, like you have the Kelsey Brother Bowl, and in how Donna, the mother of the 2 brothers, are eating it up, and of course I mentioned Mike Trout, and I mentioned the bar in Philly, and there was other things that I wanted to mention, but I decided not to. But this one particular trope is not getting enough love. It's going to get the love here as I decide to go in. So you got Patrick Mahomes on one side. You have Jalen Hurts on the other. And as I said, you've heard the tropes before. You've heard the 2 things before, and of course, we're in the midst of Black History Month, so you've heard a prolific amount of black. But let's talk about something that we haven't talked about with these 2 men, and that is these 2 gentlemen grew up with fathers in their home, and not only grew up with their fathers in their home, but they grew up with fathers in their home who were active in their sons' lives. So you have Averion Hurts. Now, he is the father of Jalen. Now, some may have heard of him. Of course, the headquarters of BS3 is in Texas. They're in the northern part of Texas, the Metroplex area. I've heard of him before Jalen was in college because I grew up in Houston. And so did Jalen. He grew up in the Houston area too. And Mr. Hurts is a football coach in Channelview. And for those who don't know, Channelview is about 20 miles east of Houston. And about maybe 40 miles east of downtown Houston. He is a remarkable human being. I mean, seriously, he is a remarkable human being. And this is before even talking about how he has groomed his son to be a remarkable human being of his own. I mean, he's wonderful. He's wonderful. And what I love about this is that he doesn't try to come with fake. He comes with the real. He comes with the real all day, every day. And about his situation with Jalen, he said, quote, in his situation, talk about Jalen's and his own, it's not a hard luck story. He didn't come from humble beginnings, let's say. So this is just really a story of a kid who fell in love with football. He wanted to do the best he could with it, and he has a burning desire to be the best he can be. Close quote. Now, for those who don't fully grasp and understand why this is important, normally when you say black, you think absentee fathers. Let's put it out there. That's normally what you think. If you say if athlete is black, more than likely you're gearing up with, well, his mama must have really done a good job with him. Well, I'm sure Jalen's mother did do a good job with him, but Jalen's father did a bang-up job with him too. And he was with his son every step of the way from birth to now. And it's not just a Varian Hurts. It's not just him. No, it's also Patrick Mahomes. Now you say, wait a minute, Cole. Patrick Mahomes, that's the name of the quarterback that's starting in the Super Bowl. Yes. But the name of the quarterback that's starting the Super Bowl this Sunday and started in 2 others beforehand is Patrick Mahomes Jr. You see, because Patrick Mahomes Sr. was in Junior's home too. Now, you may have heard of him. You probably have heard of him a little bit more. Now, he didn't live in the area where I lived. Mr. Mahomes was a pitcher in Major League Baseball, most notably with the Twins. And what I find ironic about the story with Patrick Jr. is you would have thought that he was going to be geared up to become a baseball player, because he did something that my father did with me. When I was about 4, 5, my father would take me, drive me from our house to Herman Park in Houston, and we'd just be tossing the ball around. First it was footballs. Then it was baseballs, when I was able to have better motor functions and I didn't have to look at a larger object coming at me to catch. And so we would be tossing the ball around, my father and me, similar to like what Senior and Junior did. So Senior went on to say the following, quote, I just remember him being so excited to go to the yard every day. Talking about the ballpark. I'd have to hold him back just so I could get in the car before we left, because he was ready to get out there. And he'd get there to the clubhouse, get his uniform on, and he'd be one of the first guys out in the field. And of course, I had to play catch and all that. Close quote. See, this is what I wanted to talk about. So to me, this is more than a game, because it's not just 2 black quarterbacks starting or 2 quarterbacks under the age of 30 starting. Those are great. Those are wonderful. But those are 2 young men who were reared to be leaders. And they were reared to be leaders because there was 2 black fathers in the home. And the reason why I am stressing the word black or the culture black in here is because they didn't leave. Once they conceived, once a variant conceived Jalen, and once Patrick Sr. conceived Patrick Jr., they did not leave their homes, and they did not leave their wives either. They were there to rear their sons, their respective sons, to the two wonderful, upstanding, outstanding men that they currently are today. You see, one of the reasons why I'm able to exist is I don't make any shames. I don't make any bones about it. I grew up with a mother and a father. And I'm proud to say I grew up with a mother and a father. I'm also proud to say, as much as I love my mother and I love her dearly, one of the greatest human beings in the world is my father. And my father is similar to Tony Dungy in as much as it's not necessarily I wanted to not incur his wrath, although I can and I don't want to. It's more I don't want to disappoint him. And I feel worse when I disappoint him than when I anger him, because the disappointment lasts longer. The disappointment stings harder because he thought better of me and I showed why he shouldn't and why he may have to think differently about me. That is what I never want to do with my father, whether he's alive or dead. He's alive now. But whether he's alive or dead, I never want to disappoint my father. And I know I'm saying this, and I know if Jalen or Patrick Jr. were listening to this, I know they would nod their head in agreement with me, because I know that's how they feel too. I know Jalen does not want to disappoint a variant, and I know Junior does not want to disappoint Senior. You see, it's time that we wreck the stereotype that black men do not want to be there for their children. And so if you're going to raise up the fact that it's two black men starting for the first time in Super Bowl history, if you're going to raise up the fact that these are two men who are young, both of them are under the age of 30 and they're starting in the NFL, and it's the youngest matchup in NFL history, please do. But also please raise up the fact that these two brothers were reared by the strong women in their lives that were their mothers and the strong pillars that were their father. Their fathers modeled the way for these gentlemen to become the beasts that they are, not just on the field, but off of it. So, we get caught up with the fact that they may not be all black, or it's all about the color of the skin. No, it's about the fabric of the human beings involved. And I'm sick of hearing that men could just spit out a seed but not be responsible for the life. And because of that, all men are dogs and all men are lazy and all men can't do this and that and the other. Let this be a story that shows you not all men are this way. And these Super Bowl champions, whether Jalen wins one Sunday or not, Patrick already has won one. But they're champions in life. Let these Super Bowl champions show you that this is the product of what strong men in the home can do to young men who have been reared to be straight up leaders. And if we can do that, this world will be far better. Far better. But we can't be caught up in these tropes. We got to celebrate every single aspect of Sunday. And to me, the greatest aspect to celebrate Sunday, although I have great and profound respect for both of these gentlemen, it's not number one for the Eagles. is not number 15 of the Chiefs. The greatest aspect of this gathering is not Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes Jr. No. To me, the greatest aspect of this matchup is Varian Hurts and his wife, and Patrick Mahomes Sr. and his wife. Because those four human beings reared two strong men, two leaders of men. And that makes me more proud than anything else you can tell me about Super Bowl 57. Before I head on out, let me go to the ColeSportz VIP zone one last time. Victor Locke says, unfortunately, men are the usual scapegoats. And the beautiful fact is that these two young leaders had fathers in the home. Exactly, sir. But that is going to get swept under the rug. And it's being swept under the rug. But you roll with a partner of mine. You roll with a partner of mine long before I've rolled with him. So you know that's just not how we roll. We see it, we're gonna big it up because it needs to be bigged up. Because those two fathers, they need to get their roses, because it's more than just the fact that these two men have brought their teams to a Super Bowl. It's the fact that they took all the lessons that the fathers imparted upon them and look at how well they both turned out. Because it's about that more than anything else. If you feel led to donate to this program, go to cash.app /$host Cole Johnson. That's cash.app /host Cole Johnson. I'm going to get that right one of these days. Again, if you feel led to donate to the program, go to cash.app /host $host Cole Johnson. That is cash.app /$host Cole Johnson. Well, that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for joining me for this wonderful rendition of the program that is the classiest sports show on the planet. And this is for the intelligent sportsman. I am Cole Johnson, and this is ColeSportz.
Thank you for tuning in to ColeSportz. To download this episode, go to Spreaker and type ColeSportz with a Z. For apparel, go to Spring and type ColeSportz VIP Boutique. That's with a Z. To reach Cole Johnson, go to flowcode.com /page /host Cole Johnson. This has been a Comey Media Incorporated presentation.